Outside of Time Episode 6. In the previous episode, Xu Qing faced the raging black-scaled wolves alone, moving like a silent storm through the pack, even as their claws tore into him. His body mended at a terrifying speed, letting him fight far longer than anyone expected. But just when he thought he had things under control, a strange wolf fell, and its shadow twisted unnaturally beneath the scattered sunlight. When that shadow touched him, an overwhelming evil intent tried to invade his body. For a heartbeat, it felt unstoppable, until the mysterious purple crystal within him suddenly erupted with a chilling force, wiping away the corruption as though devouring it. At the end of the previous episode, Xu Qing discovered something even more shocking. One of his mutation points had vanished. His strength had grown. What will happen next? Stay tuned. And the story continues. What exactly is the purple crystal? And that shadow which possessed the intention of malicious invasion? What was that as well? Does it have something to do with the disappearance of my mutation point? Xu Qing muttered to himself. His brows furrowed as he pondered the mysterious forces he had just encountered. The events of the day were still fresh in his mind: the purple crystal, the shadow that seemed to carry a malicious intent, the strange disappearance of his mutation point. It all felt incomprehensible. Yet, for now, he knew that curiosity had to wait. The present demanded action, and that meant survival. He took a deep breath, trying to clear his thoughts. Captain Lei and his team were returning from their tasks, moving steadily past him. Their eyes met his briefly, acknowledging his presence without words. Xu Qing's gaze sharpened. He knew that regardless of what strange phenomena might be at play, the immediate threat was far more pressing. After a brief moment to recondition and regain his strength, it was his turn to step into the fray again. Wiping the iron stick along his blood-smeared body, Xu Qing felt the familiar chill of the weapon returning to his touch. He surged forward the instant cross passed him, moving with incredible speed toward the pursuing wolf pack. The creatures sensed him immediately, their snarls and blood-curdling cries cutting through the thickening evening air. The fight began in earnest, a brutal baptism under the fading sunlight. The jungle of the Forbidden Zone seemed to come alive with the sounds of battle. Xu Qing moved like a shadow among the trees, his body honed by prior battles and the opening of the god's eyes. Each swing, each dodge, each calculated strike displayed his growing sharpness, the skills that had been painfully forged through countless struggles. He persisted longer than anyone else, even outlasting Captain Lei and Cross in sheer endurance. Without him, some of the others might have already succumbed to the dangerous mutations threatening their bodies. The day slowly faded into night. The sun's afterglow disappeared entirely, replaced by the cold silver light of the moon. The sound of fighting still echoed through the dense foliage. Unrelenting, the Thunder Team's retreat was methodical but taxing, punctuated by bursts of rotational resistance as they fought off the relentless wolves. Hours passed, each longer than the last, until finally, exhaustion reached its peak. Every white pill they had relied upon had been consumed, and the concentration of anomalous substances in their bodies neared the critical point of mutation. Just as hope seemed nearly lost, the first rays of morning light pierced the canopy. The black-scaled wolves, their strength diminished and movement sluggish, finally began to retreat. One by one, they disappeared into the depths of the forbidden jungle. Silence gradually returned to the area, broken only by ragged breathing and the occasional cough. The team lay scattered across the forest floor, bloodied and exhausted. Xu Qing himself felt utterly drained, though the restorative power of the purple crystal had helped him recover to some degree. Still, the mental and physical toll was evident. Luan Tooth, struggling to sit up nearby, glanced at him and murmured a soft, "Thank you." Barbaric Ghost, panting heavily, gave Xu Qing a thumbs up, silently acknowledging his critical role in the survival of the team. Despite the temporary relief, Xu Qing felt a nagging doubt gnawing at him. He noticed something unusual. The accumulation rate of anomalous substances in his body had slowed considerably, even seeming to dissipate on its own at times. This deviation from the norm only deepened his unease. Captain Lei, rubbing the space between his brows, addressed the team with a grim tone. This incident could not have been by chance. The black-scaled wolves' continuous pursuit seems as if something was drawing them here. I want everyone to take out any external objects they acquired during this operation. We need to inspect them carefully. I suspect that something, or someone, may have orchestrated this. The team complied, producing their items for inspection. Xu Qing's mind raced as he considered the possibilities. Could it be the metal plate from Horse 4's belongings? Suddenly, Luan Tooth cried out in surprise, pointing at Barbaric Ghost. Among his acquired items was a small wooden box, corroded and emitting a faint, unpleasant scent that mixed strangely with the jungle air. Barbaric Ghost, confused, explained, "I bought it from a street vendor the day I returned to the campsite. It was supposed to contain insect repellent powder." Luan Tooth inspected the box carefully. Her expression darkened with realization. This was made from the feces of butterfly rabbits. When exposed to the outside world, it self-ignites and attracts scale-type lifeforms. The black-scaled wolves are among them. Captain Lei's expression hardened. Barbaric Ghost was deceived. Someone laid a trap for us in the campsite. It is clear who could have done this. Cross spoke coldly from the side. The Bloodshadow Team. Luan Tooth hesitated, knowing the team was already weakened. If it is the Bloodshadow Team, they must have planned their escape carefully. We are not in good shape right now. Captain Lei's eyes scanned the distance, weighing the decision. After a moment of silence, he gave the final order. We continue to the harvest point. Once there, collect everything as quickly as possible. Afterward, disperse and take different routes to return. We meet back at the campsite individually. As the team pressed forward, Xu Qing moved closer to Luan Tooth. He pulled out the amber he had obtained from Fat Mountain. Seeking her expertise, she took it in her hands and examined it thoroughly. "This is the stinger of the ghost-faced scorpion," she explained. "Its venom is potent but can be neutralized. When applied correctly, it can trigger the potential of the body to erupt instantly. However, the effect is short-lived, and detoxification is required immediately after its use. This is why it is often reared for its value. After the eruption, the poison needed to be detoxified immediately. Hence, it was reared by people for the most part and was worth a considerable amount of value." Xu Qing understood. After thanking Luan Tooth, he put away the item. Thereafter, everyone stayed vigilant. They observed their surroundings closely as they traveled swiftly forward. The journey through the Forbidden Zone felt markedly different from before. Silence stretched between the members of the Thunder Team. The recent appearance of the black-scaled wolves seemed to have driven other predatory creatures away, leaving the path ahead unusually quiet. Xu Qing moved carefully, his senses heightened, scanning every shadow, every rustle in the foliage. Even in the absence of immediate danger, he remained alert, knowing that the Forbidden Zone was unpredictable and treacherous. As they pressed forward, the terrain gradually shifted. The dense jungle began to break into small hills and streams. Though the waters they passed were black and undrinkable, clearly contaminated by the environment's strange properties. At one section of the forest, Xu Qing noticed a narrow hidden alley, partially veiled by thick rattan and vines. Pushing through it, the team emerged into a small canyon, and the sight that met them was breathtaking, almost otherworldly. The canyon's ceiling was covered by thick, interwoven rattan that blocked the sunlight entirely. Unlike the surrounding jungle, no large trees grew here. Instead, the ground and walls were blanketed in an explosion of color. Fist-sized flowers of countless hues carpeted the canyon floor, and slender stalks of grass emitted a soft, blue shimmering light. Each stalk bore 7 leaves, glowing faintly like miniature constellations, transforming the canyon into a tranquil, starry sky. It was a scene of rare beauty, serene and peaceful despite the dangers lurking beyond its borders. This was a harvest point, a highly secretive area that the Thunder Team relied upon for survival. They approached carefully, understanding that each harvest point required a specific technique to collect its resources efficiently. Xu Qing was not permitted to join the harvesting process. Instead, the others spread out, moving with practiced precision to gather the precious flora. Xu Qing took note of their method but chose to sit cross-legged and focus on his own training. Yesterday's battle had left a lasting impact on him. He felt his cultivation base had grown stronger from constant exertion and the exposure to anomalous forces. Now, sitting in the quiet canyon, he concentrated on circulating the mountains and seas art within his body, absorbing the abundant spirit energy permeating the area. The wind in the canyon stirred, responding to his cultivation, a tangible sign of the energy flowing around him. As he focused, his body began to emit a low, rhythmic thumping. Filth and impurities poured from his pores, mingling with the dried blood on his skin, purifying his flesh and blood. This process allowed the absorbed spirit energy to nourish him rapidly, and he could feel his strength and resilience growing with each passing moment. The sound of his cultivation intensified, resonating in harmony with the spirit energy until, finally, it reached a sudden, breathtaking crescendo. In that instant, a roar echoed within Xu Qing's mind. His blood vessels swelled beneath his skin, and his flesh and blood became saturated with spirit energy. It was as though every cell in his body had been infused with extraordinary power, increasing both his strength and speed beyond previous limits. The energy radiated outward, flowing into the environment around him. He had achieved the third level of the mountains and seas art. Yet, when Xu Qing opened his eyes, there was no euphoria. Instead, a profound doubt clouded his mind. When he looked down, he saw his own shadow under the scattered sunlight and noticed something unusual. The anomalous substances he had absorbed during cultivation, which normally would flow into his mutation point on his arm, had not done so this time. Instead, they had gone into his shadow, as if the shadow itself had consumed that portion of energy. He spent a long moment reflecting, suppressing the confusion and uncertainty. There was no choice but to continue moving forward. The others were finishing their harvest, and the next phase of their journey awaited. Xu Qing glanced to the end of the canyon, toward the dense jungle beyond, and noticed a distant building. From this distance, it appeared to be a cluster of ancient temples, connected as if forming a small compound. They sat silently, emanating an air of age and mystery. Captain Lei approached after finishing his portion of the harvest. Following Xu Qing's gaze, he spoke calmly. That building is the boundary of the farthest area scavengers can explore. You cannot pass it, but if you encounter danger nearby, it is a safe place to take temporary shelter. Xu Qing nodded, intrigued by the structure. Boundary? He asked. That's right, Captain Lei replied. Legends say the Forbidden Zone was created because of these temples. Some scavengers have explored them, but nothing of note was found, except for a special kind of stone that occasionally appears. Curiosity sparked within Xu Qing. What makes the stone special? Captain Lei smiled faintly. Grind it into powder, sprinkle it over a fresh scar, and it removes the mark completely. No trace remains. Of course, that's of little use to us scavengers, but important figures sometimes seek it. He then distributed the harvested 7-leaf grass into portions for each member of the team. Cross, Barbaric Ghost, and Luan Tooth received their shares. And finally, the 5th portion was handed to Xu Qing. From now on, everyone will leave separately. By breaking up, we increase the chance of survival for at least some of us. Captain Lei handed Xu Qing a map, his expression serious. Kid, the target on me is too big and I'm bound to be the focus that Bloodshadow is paying attention to. Also, with my role as the captain, I have to protect you all as well. You should get out as quickly as possible and wait for me at the campsite. Captain Lei spoke in a deep voice and walked out of the canyon under the other teammates' silent gazes, disappearing into the distance. Xu Qing watched him go, wanting to speak, to ask a question, but before he could utter a word, Captain Lei had already vanished into the distance, his figure gradually blending with the dense forest beyond the canyon. A heavy silence followed, broken only by the subtle rustle of leaves. Cross patted Xu Qing lightly on the shoulder, offering a silent reassurance, and then departed as well. Barbaric Ghost and Luan Tooth lingered for a few moments, recounting the experiences and knowledge they had gained during the harvest. They spoke in low, hurried tones, careful not to draw attention. Before finally leaving in their turn, Xu Qing remained, quietly placing the 7-leaf grass into his pack, his eyes turning once more toward the distant cluster of temples at the canyon's edge. After a short pause, he inhaled deeply, his chest expanding as he prepared himself. Then, in an instant, He sprinted toward the canyon entrance. His speed had increased noticeably since reaching the third level of the mountains and seas art. Like a shadow in motion, he disappeared from sight, moving agilely through the jungle with the grace and fluidity of a monkey. He did not follow the path the team had used. Instead, he took a detour, guided by the map Captain Lei had given him. Xu Qing applied all the lessons he had learned from their journey, the subtle signs of danger, the ways to read the terrain, the behavior of the mutated beasts. Several dangerous creatures crossed his path, but each he handled skillfully, moving with precision and instinct honed from prior battles. Throughout his journey, he paid constant attention to his shadow under the sunlight. A strange light sometimes flickered in his eyes as he observed it. He experimented, drawing in spirit energy, circulating it through his body, and saw the anomalous substances gradually flowing into his shadow instead of his body, just as they had during his breakthrough earlier. Thinking it through, Xu Qing realized that this phenomenon had begun after the purple crystal released a cold stream and had seemingly absorbed the shadow of the black-scaled wolf. It was as if his own shadow had mutated, gaining the ability to absorb and contain the anomalous substances that normally would have entered his mutation point. He rolled up his left sleeve and examined his arm. The single mutation point there had become faint, barely noticeable unless he focused carefully. If this process continued, the anomalous substances within his body would gradually diminish until his body reached a state of near-perfect purity. Xu Qing recalled what he had seen in the mountains and seas art bamboo slip. This state of perfection was legendary, attainable only by the most distinguished individuals in the Wanggu continent, the birthplace of humanity. Is it the effect of the purple crystal? He muttered to himself. Squatting on a tree branch and staring into the sky, his mind wandered into deep thought, trying to understand the implications. He touched the crystal embedded in his chest, feeling its cold, steady presence, and fell silent for a moment, suppressing all lingering doubts. Then, with a final exhale, he surged forward into the jungle, moving with renewed purpose. Despite his newfound advantage, the forbidden zone remained perilous. Xu Qing encountered dangers that tested his reflexes and observation skills. Not long into his journey, he saw two mutated bears in the distance, their auras even more imposing than Captain Lei's. On the backs of each bear lay a massive, vividly colored spider, threads extended from the spider's abdomens, burrowing into the bear's flesh, controlling them completely. The bears ran uncontrollably, demolishing trees in their path, attacking any mutated beasts in their way with overwhelming force. They were a destructive force, fueled by the spider's control. Xu Qing observed quietly, taking care to remain unnoticed. He realized that if the bears were aware of him, or if he had been slower, the situation could have been catastrophic. Fortunately, his speed and reflexes allowed him to evade them entirely. 2 hours passed as Xu Qing continued cautiously through the jungle. From a high vantage point atop a tree, he noticed an unusual creature in the distance. It was unlike anything that belonged to the forest. A massive jellyfish hovered above the treetops, its enormous body glowing with an ethereal light. Countless rotting, mutated beasts floated inside it, trapped within its translucent form. Tentacles swayed from its body, each covered with eerie eyes, half of which were closed. The jellyfish drifted slowly toward the depths of the forbidden zone, radiating a chilling aura. Wherever it passed, the ground below froze instantly, trapping every living creature in ice. Its power was overwhelming, far surpassing even the frenzied bears Xu Qing had encountered earlier. The sheer presence of the creature made his body stiffen, and a primal sense of danger surged from the depths of his soul. He watched it silently until it finally disappeared from view, leaving a frozen swath across the jungle as a terrifying reminder of the Forbidden Zone's power. Xu Qing reflected on his advantage, the shadow absorbing anomalous substances. While it gave him a unique edge in surviving the dangers of the forest, he knew it was not limitless. To truly survive, he would need to become stronger, amplifying this advantage to withstand the perils that lay around every corner. As he moved on, the sun began to set, casting long shadows across the jungle floor. Roars echoed in the distance, signaling more dangers ahead. Xu Qing consulted his map silently, estimating the direction he needed to go to escape the Forbidden Zone before daybreak. He considered traveling through the night, weighing the risks carefully. Suddenly, a distant boom resonated through the jungle, followed by a sharp, agonizing scream, one that Xu Qing recognized immediately. Barbaric ghost? His eyes narrowed as he identified the voice. With silent urgency, he leapt into motion, moving through the underbrush with skill and agility, keeping his figure hidden from view. Within moments, he reached the location of the scream and concealed himself atop a tree. Below, the sight that met his eyes was horrifying. 6 or 7 corpses lay scattered across the ground. Among them was Barbaric Ghost, his entire body mutated to a greenish-black color, his head brutally severed from his body. The once mighty warrior had perished horribly. Beside him, his massive finesteel shield lay shattered, split into 2 jagged pieces. His mace was also discarded, covered in blood, a final testament to a desperate, all-out battle before death. Xu Qing's heart tightened at the sight. The grief for his fallen comrade mixed with fear as his gaze shifted slightly. Not far from Barbaric Ghost, Captain Lei was engaged in combat. Surrounded by 5 enemies, his body too was beginning to mutate, turning greenish, and he appeared on the brink of transformation. This scene caused Xu Qing's pupils to contract. He then grabbed his iron stick firmly, and sharp killing intent erupted forth instantly in his gaze. He saw that the people attacking Captain Lei were from the Bloodshadow Team. The sun was slowly setting, being covered by the darkness in the far distance at a rate that could be seen by the naked eye. The horizon gradually surrendered to the encroaching darkness, shadows stretching across the jungle as the last rays of sunlight struggled to penetrate the dense canopy. A creeping coldness spread from the darkness, chilling the air in all directions, as if the forest itself were preparing for a night of death and chaos. Among this dying light, the jungle appeared to writhe and struggle, desperately clinging to what little illumination remained. Yet the sun offered only a pale, dim glow, weak and insufficient against the encroaching shadows. High above, Xu Qing remained hidden atop a sturdy tree, his eyes cold and calculating as he observed the battlefield below. Captain Lei was surrounded by 5 members of the Bloodshadow Team, their movements precise and deadly. 2 of them pressed the attack, engaging Captain Lei directly, while the other 3 circled around, blocking escape routes and preventing any hope of retreat. The 3 surrounding members appeared to be at the 3rd level of cultivation. Similar to Luantooth, they kept their distance, circling with caution, aware that getting too close to Captain Lei could be fatal. Nevertheless, their presence forced Captain Lei to divide his attention, making his attacks more measured and cautious. The 2 in front were far more formidable. The first, releasing spirit energy fluctuations slightly weaker than Captain Lei's, was clearly at the 6th level of chi condensation. He was an old man, his hair disheveled and his gaze sharp and ferocious. Cuts streaked his clothes, and his bulging muscles seemed ready to burst from sheer tension. This was none other than the captain of the Bloodshadow Team, infamous for his brutality and his taste for raw dog meat. He attacked relentlessly, his eyes fixed coldly on Captain Lei, who was turning increasingly green with the mutation process. Today, the Thunder Team will have its name removed from the campsite. The Bloodshadow captain sneered, "Captain Lei, you might as well commit suicide. Otherwise, like that barbaric ghost, you'll be unable to retain even a complete corpse after mutating. That would be far too undignified. If you comply, I will ensure your team members are taken care of." The second man beside him spoke next, his voice dripping with malice. He was a middle-aged man with a bulging, distorted back, blinded in one eye, the other gleaming with bloodlust. His spirit energy was strong, at the 5th level of chi condensation, though unstable, suggesting a recent breakthrough. Captain Lei can be assured. He spat, "After you die, we will deal with the other members of the Thunder Team. I have long desired a taste of Luantooth, and that new kid should be worth something if sold as a treasure nurturer." Captain Lei's expression remained calm, though he fought with a determination bordering on suicidal. He attacked with increasing ferocity, forcing the Bloodshadow duo into careful guerrilla tactics, unwilling to suffer severe injuries themselves. Their resolve to succeed was absolute, and they were prepared to prolong the fight as long as necessary. From his vantage point, Xu Qing assessed the battlefield with sharp precision. One opponent at the 6th level, one at the 5th, and 3 at the 3rd. His killing intent flared intensely. He could retreat, but gratitude anchored him here. Captain Lei had shown him kindness and guidance, and Xu Qing had no intention of abandoning him. He scanned the surrounding terrain. Trees densely packed, dim light filtering through the foliage, pockets of shadow perfectly suited for stealth. In an instant, Xu Qing's decision crystallized. Killing intent surged into his gaze, his body coiling like a spring. He stomped fiercely on the treetop, propelling himself forward with explosive momentum. Like an arrow released from a bow, he shot through the air, moving at blinding speed. The 3rd level of Mountains and Seas art combined with the power of the purple crystal amplifying his force. A faint afterimage remained at the top of the tree, the speed of his motion so great that the human eye could barely register it. Before any of the enemies could react, Xu Qing's figure materialized in the midst of the battlefield. His first target was a small, skinny youth among the 3 blocking Captain Lei's escape route. The youth's triangular eyes were fixed on Captain Lei's struggle. He did not even notice the sudden chill of wind on his face. Before he could react, Xu Qing's iron stick pierced through his temple with devastating force. Without waiting for the agonizing cries or the corpse to fall, Xu Qing bent and kicked backward, propelling himself toward another opponent like a hunting leopard. The second scavenger's face went pale as fear overtook him. He tried to retreat, but Xu Qing's speed was overwhelming. His fist struck with the might of the 3rd level of Mountains and Seas art, colliding with the man's chest. The impact caved in the chest, a bloody hole punching through his back, and the sound of splintering bone echoed across the battlefield. Simultaneously, Xu Qing's left hand flung a dagger in a wide arc, tracing a sharp trajectory toward the 3rd opponent. By the time the second scavenger's chest had collapsed and his heart was destroyed, the 3rd man had barely realized the threat. As he raised a hand instinctively to protect himself, a freezing dagger struck his glabella. The immense force shattered the skull in an instant. The scene unfolded with blinding speed. 3 bodies collapsed almost simultaneously. Xu Qing's figure emerged from the carnage, stooped low, long black hair partially obscuring his face. Yet his icy gaze was unmistakably sharp and predatory. The battlefield froze momentarily in shock at his sudden and decisive interference. At this moment, he looked up and met the gazes of Captain Lei and the 2 other men from the Bloodshadow. They were all stunned by his interference. The surrounding wind seemed to have frozen up at this moment. Captain Lei's eyes that were filled with death intent finally had a ripple in them. He took a long look at Xu Qing and then suddenly let out a low bellow. "Kid, hurry up and go," Captain Lei shouted, his voice booming with both urgency and a commanding weight that reverberated through the jungle. But Xu Qing did not move to obey. His narrowed eyes were fixed solely on the Bloodshadow Team captain, and the cold light within them intensified. The air between the 2 sides seemed to thicken, heavy with an unspoken promise of violence. The Bloodshadow Team captain, for the first time, turned his full attention to the youth who had just appeared out of nowhere. 3 corpses lay at Xu Qing's feet, the immediate aftermath of his lightning-fast intervention. The captain's lips twitched slightly. He realized, in that instant, that he had underestimated the Thunder Team, and more importantly, this mysterious young fighter. "Kill him," the captain barked, his voice cutting through the tense air like a blade. His aura exploded outward as he lunged forward, engaging Captain Lei in a ferocious exchange of blows. Spirit energy surged, and the 2 titans collided with shockwaves that made the surrounding trees sway. Meanwhile, the middle-aged man, known as Firecrow, at the 5th level of Qi condensation, turned his attention toward Xu Qing. A cruel smile crept across his face as he cracked his knuckles, his gaze full of overconfidence. Despite the youth's recent demonstration of astonishing speed and deadly precision, Firecrow believed that someone of his breakthrough-level power would be able to handle a 3rd-level body refiner without much difficulty. Xu Qing's eyes narrowed, the cold gleam within them sharpening like steel. He had never faced a 5th-level Qi condensation opponent directly, but based on his prior experience and assessment of the battlefield, he knew he had to act decisively. With a swift sway of his body, he charged, his momentum propelling him like a striking wolf. closing the distance between him and Firecrow in an instant. As Xu Qing threw his first punch, Firecrow's lips curled into a disdainful sneer. Spirit energy flared around the middle-aged man, forming an invisible barrier. When Xu Qing's fist connected, a tremendous boom rang out. Cracks spread across the barrier, but it did not collapse. Instead, the force rebounded violently, sending Xu Qing's wrist cracking painfully and dislocating it. Xu Qing grimaced but did not falter. With a swift, precise movement, he swung his right hand and forcibly realigned his dislocated wrist, his eyes flashing with vicious determination. Again, he struck with all his power. The barrier shuddered under the force of his attack and finally shattered completely. Yet, the destruction of the barrier unleashed a violent eruption of invisible energy. Sharp, unseen shards surged outward like a storm, cutting and tearing at Xu Qing's body. He staggered backward, multiple wounds appearing across his skin, his dislocated wrist hanging unnaturally once more. Pain radiated through him like fire, yet his focus did not waver. "Fool," Firecrow roared. "A mere body refiner is not worthy to challenge a spellcaster, let alone someone who has just reached the 3rd level. Facing me, a 5th-level cultivator." His eyes gleamed with a mixture of surprise and disdain. The collapse of his barrier had not been anticipated, though his own breakthrough had allowed the explosive rebound to save him from greater danger. Xu Qing, his face cold and expression unwavering, pressed his right hand against the ground, using it to slam his dislocated wrist back into place. Pain radiated through him like wildfire, but his movement remained fluid, precise, and unyielding. Firecrow hesitated, sensing the young fighter's extraordinary resilience and ferocity. Quickly, Firecrow raised both hands, performing a series of complex mudras. Spirit energy gathered, condensing into a massive fireball, the size of a human head, which hurtled toward Xu Qing with terrifying force. Its heat radiated outward, distorting the surrounding air, warning of the lethal power contained within. Xu Qing barely had time to react. Shifting to the side, he dodged the first fireball, only to see 2 more manifest behind the first, each chasing him relentlessly. He scanned his surroundings, calculating with precision, and grabbed one of the corpses he had killed earlier, hurling it into the path of a fireball. The corpse was incinerated in a heartbeat, giving Xu Qing a direct sense of the fireball's destructive power. The heat intensified, searing his skin and causing blisters to appear. Despite his speed, the 2nd and 3rd fireballs closed in relentlessly, exploding upon proximity. Flames erupted, scorching the earth, consuming trees, and casting the jungle in a hellish glow that merged with the fading sunlight. Even the ambient air seemed to burn, as though the fire itself sought to invade every pore and organ of Xu Qing's body. From a distance, the Bloodshadow Team captain bellowed at Firecrow, "Hurry up! Finish him!" "Understood, Captain," Firecrow replied with a cruel laugh, summoning 2 additional fireballs with deadly precision. Each movement was calculated to prevent Xu Qing from finding any escape, sealing off his paths and attempting to ensure a complete kill. Even as the flames blazed and the ground smoldered, Xu Qing endured, his body moving with feline grace despite the searing heat and injuries. He used the terrain and debris to his advantage, rolling, ducking, and countering with sudden strikes. He slammed the iron stick and a dagger toward Firecrow in a surprise attack, landing hits that tore into the middle-aged man's flesh, cutting through an ear and puncturing his chest. Though not fatal, the strikes caused excruciating pain and forced Firecrow into a defensive retreat. Xu Qing's body, flushed red from burns and blistered from the fireballs, remained poised and ready. Every movement exuded lethal intent. The setting sun reflected off his eyes, intensifying the cold, merciless light within them. Pain, blood, and exhaustion did not diminish his focus or his desire to protect those he owed loyalty to. His body was flushed red and still covered in blisters, but at this moment, the glow from the setting sun reflected in the youth's eyes. In his eyes, there was a gleam as cold as ice. His killing intent hadn't diminished at all. In this episode, we saw Xu Qing and the Thunder Team navigate the perilous Forbidden Zone, facing both mutated beasts and mysterious forces. From the dangerous journey through dense forests to discovering hidden harvest points filled with glowing seven-leaf grass, Xu Qing trained tirelessly, reaching the third level of the mountains and seas art while uncovering strange changes in his shadow. We witnessed the team being attacked by the Bloodshadow Team, leading to a fierce battle where Xu Qing demonstrated astonishing speed, precision, and courage, taking on enemies far stronger than himself. The tension and danger never let up, as he protected Captain Lei and fought against powerful cultivators, even under the fiery assault of devastating spirit energy attacks. What happens next? Stay tuned for the next episode of Outside of Time. If you enjoyed this episode or found it exciting, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to our channel to get the latest updates on Xu Qing's journey. Thank you for watching, and we look forward to seeing you in the next episode.